Good evening, campers. I hope you're going well, my friends. It's Andy here, your professional human, and I don't know why I keep having a coffee at this time of night because I'm buzzing by midnight, I think it is. Anyway, team, how are we? How's your week going so far, eh? I hope it's a good one. Happy Freedom Day to all of those Sydney siders. I've seen a number of yous take absolute advantage of being free. We had a session with the Central 21 Better Homes and Gardens Networks today with Tom Panos, who was absolutely on form, which was brilliant. And he said to us before we kicked off, he goes, Andy, honestly, it's not quite like what it was 2 years ago, but it ain't far off. And there's a hell of a lot for Melburnians to get excited about. So it was good to hear that. And it's great to see a whole bunch of you enjoying the time being out and about. I think I saw Sabine Akbani take all of about an hour and a half before she had a glass of champers in her hands. So if anybody knows her, please tag her in this, right? So she can hear me say that, because I think that's the one thing she's been dying for is a glass of bubbles with some mates, bless her. Anyway, team, I hope you're going well. As always, a big thank you off the top of the show to Anywhere Auctions for being big supporters of this professional human series. Love working with them. They've been amazing through this lockdown period for myself as an auctioneer, but across the board they've just been providing a hell of a lot of support, so thank you to them. Great platform, all encompassing. Definitely take a look at it. And look, gang, we're going to be talking about this at the RAIV in a few weeks time, but the need for having an online bidding platform or an off-site bidding platform moving forward is absolutely necessary. It's a necessity for anybody that's wanting to actually make sure that they are doing everything they can to get every last cent for their vendors. Because if you don't have something for that, then you can't say that with a straight face to your vendors. Anyway, campers, how are we? Out of 10. Let me know how your week's going so far. Melbourne is throwing a very typical Melbourne weather scene for us at the minute. We had bright sunshine in the morning, then pissing down rain, and then it cleared up again. And apparently it's going to hammer it down overnight, and we're going to have sunshine tomorrow. So it's been a bit of a hodgepodge outside, but it's been a better day for me, I'm not going to lie. The boys' daycare opened back up, thankfully, having been apparently labelled as a tier 1, even though it wasn't officially labelled as a tier 1. It kind of was, apparently. But anyway, Cal went back and had some laughs with his mates, which is really, really good. We had a little bit of peace and quiet, which is never too bad. Never too bad, I think. I had a really cool rap from REB about the podcast that we put out to the networks, which is really cool. So that was a good one for me. Let us know, though, team, how you guys are going out of 10. I've also, before I begin with tonight's topic, I shared earlier on tonight a conversation between Philip Robertson and Craig Turks, Saving Brothers and 100 Words coming together, two men's mental health charities born in Melbourne and spreading around Australia and beyond. They had a really good conversation, actually, and I shared that on my personal profile, on my personal page. So please make sure you give that a bit of a watch if you are struggling in any way, shape, or form. They are sort of a bit more sort of skewed towards men's mental health, but it doesn't really matter. Anything like that, so please go and check that out. That conversation is a real cool conversation. I'm hanging around about an 8 or so out of 10, and when this coffee really kicks in, it's probably going to shoot up to a 9 and probably not go for a little while. So let us get stuck into tonight's show. Question: does the bin man celebrate after every single bin that he picks up? Does the mailman give it a bit of a fist pump after every single letter that they post through the letterbox? Does the beautician do a little samba after every Brazilian that they whip down the middle. Pretty confident they don't do that. All right. And it is a very comical / trivial way of getting round to a very serious point. There is a constant barrier between what we want to achieve as an industry and what we actually end up achieving as an industry when it comes to all of our media, social media, marketing, branding, all those sorts of words, all those sorts of things, right? Essentially, team, the thing that I'm getting to is, and this is going to sound very po-faced and slightly negative, but bear with me. Why on earth do agents insist on plastering across all their social media feeds the fact that they're doing their job? And that's all they broadcast. We've just sold another property. Want to know what yours is worth? Give us a call. We're so happy we helped to achieve a great price for our vendors and buyers. Not that you can actually achieve that for both at the same time, by the way, gang. Here's a little hint for you. Team, essentially, what we do with our social media, and this is in the majority of cases, right? What we're doing is servicing ourselves and not actually providing any value of any real substance to our consumer base who we are trying to communicate to with all of this stuff, right? Why do you think it is that the only people that generally tend to pay attention to your posts are other agents? Why do you think that is? Because essentially, gang, we are losing sight on who it is that we are actually communicating to. It's rather straightforward, right? Now, the thing is, team, here's the thing. Selling a house, it's exciting, it's cool, right? And this is the thing, this is the distinction I want to make. I want to put a bit of reason into this conversation, in this dialogue. Selling a house is cool. It's fun, it's exciting. You can get caught up in the emotion of the vendors and the buyers get excited, and you know, hopefully it's a good time. You know, if they're going through a shitty situation, then that feeling is one of relief a lot of the time, right? For those one maybe going through a shitty divorce or something like that, right? Where it's not an exciting sale as such, but it provides relief. It provides them with a step forward in their lives, right? And that's cool. And that is absolutely something to get buzzed by, 100%. But even though I would dare say that even though we don't hear about it, the majority of people just genuinely get excited for other people that they've helped, right? I do feel that that is a majority. I am going to sort of, you know, really sort of stick my neck out a little bit and say that the majority of our industry does actually give a shit of their customers and their clients. We just don't tend to hear about it too much, right? And this is the thing, because even those ones that do genuinely care and do, you know, really just get excited for what it means to the people that they serve, we still fuck it up when it comes to broadcasting that and showing that to our consumers, our community, our clients, our customers, our potential customers, right? We just keep ballsing it up. Now, part of the reason, I think, is because of the fact that we feel that we haven't got enough time. And sometimes a number of people tend to just go to these automation platforms, like the Rate My Agent service that I, you know, will go on record and say I think is absolutely abhorrent. I think it's the shittest shortcut for agents to put content onto their social media feeds is via that Rate My Agent new listing, new sale bullshit. I think it's horrific. It's only just got a little bit better because I think they've just started putting on some of the agents' branding on it. But for a long time, it was so shit. And it was lazy man's social media. It really was. It was lazy human social media. Really, really was. And for a lot of people, and like I said, it could be through laziness or it could be through ignorance. I'm saying that in a non-negative, just is what it is, you don't know what you're doing type way, or well, that's pretty much all it could be, really. It's either because you can't be asked, or no, or it could be ego, right? Where you actually don't give a fuck, and all you do use social media for is to pump your own tires. You know, let's steal some quote off like an actually an intelligent person from years ago. Let's steal a quote, stick it on there, and have a picture of me walking past my Lambo. All that sort of bollocks, right? That goes along with it. We need to have a think seriously, and this has to happen every time you post anything on. You have to think about and feel about who it is you're trying to communicate to. Hardly anybody, yeah, I say hardly anyone. Not many people do that, right? And it ties in with the whole authenticity piece and whatnot. It really does tie into all of that. All of this ties into everything, right? But when it comes to how you are strategically using your social media in order to grow your pipeline, in order to grow your business, the vast majority are balls in it right up, like right up. Now, I'm sure she won't mind me just, divulging a bit of our conversation in this, but Immy Callister, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for as a human being, as a professional, as a fledgling mother, deep into year one of motherhood. I think she's fucking ace. I think her attitude's ace. I think the adversity that she came through was truly commendable. Top chick, top human in so many ways. And her and I were having a bit of a yarn a few days ago and laughing at this whole topic, this whole notion of why agents keep cocking it up and why you're not, why, and I'm talking generalities, right? So don't take it as a personal thing. It's a generality. Why on earth, or do take it personally if it is you, we insist on just putting onto our social media feeds, we've just listed, we've just sold, and that's it. Why? Now, one of the answers that I'm hearing through the screen from a few of you, I'm sure, is because we need to show that we're active in the area, right? That's generally the reason, or the use, or whatever it is, the thought process. That we're active in the area. That's why we're doing it, Andy. Or I'm sure a bunch of you said it to Immy, to be fair. And I get that, right? You need to feel, or you feel the need to make sure that those around you or those in your community are seeing that you're active. Because obviously the big differences between selling a house and getting a Brazilian is it's pretty obvious when you've got a Brazilian, right? Clearly. Even though not many people that I know, in fact, it would be hilarious if anybody did just flaunt it as they're walking down the street. I mean, it would be absolutely hilarious. But anyway, that's a whole nother fucking bag of worms, that. The bin man collects hundreds of thousands of bins every single day. The gardener cuts your grass for $25. I get the scale of the emotion involved in those sorts of things, even though apparently Brazilians absolutely fucking hurt to high heaven. I get that the emotion involved with those things isn't as significant, right? Totally understand that. But we need to, and this is where Laurie French actually put a little comment on my on the show before we came on air, and said, "Oh, come on, what's wrong with getting excited with our clients, with our vendors, with our buyers?" Totally get that, and I think that's absolutely cool that you do get excited and emotionally engaged with the outcome for them to a degree, without going too far. I get that, right? And it's totally acceptable. And it's one of the only things that keeps a lot of people going in this gig, to be perfectly honest. But for those of you who do genuinely feel like that and are still cocking it up, you need to start telling the story of how that result is making you feel because of how it's made them feel. Right? You can't just say, we just listed this, or we just sold this, It's an amazing result. We're so happy for our vendors. Well, fuck, you're not exactly going to tell them that you're pissed off about it, are you? Right? It's not like as an agent you're going to go around saying, "Hey, community, we've done fuck all this week." So you're not going to do that, are you? But telling stories and actually getting people to understand why the result is significant for the person or the persons that you have assisted, that's the game when it comes to branding and emotional engagement on any sort of media, let alone social, any sort of media. So, team, we need to start talking in terms of degrees of engagement around all of this. And this should hopefully put a lot of it into a bit more context for some of you. Just by just doing the just listed and the just solds, right? Doing the bare minimum, essentially, right? Yes, you are showing that you are active in your area. All right, I get that. However, you've got to understand that what you are doing is at the very bottom of the ladder when it comes to branding, engagement, emotional connection, ultimately feeding your pipeline, because you're at the bottom of the ladder and at the top of that ladder, right? To use this as a bit of a illustration, the top of that ladder is where you build your pipeline. Okay, that is where your media, your social media, your printed media, whatever media it is, once you make it up to the top of that ladder, that is when you are going to start getting leads coming through that work that you are doing. That's essentially what it is in a nutshell. So if you think about it, right, I'm at the now. If you're one of these people, yourself at the bottom of the ladder, right? If that's one of you that says, I'm just all I'm doing is just listed and just solds. Or if you're in rental land, all I'm doing is for lease and just leased. Okay, same. You're at the bottom of the ladder. All right. Well, at least you're on the fucking ladder, right? Compared to a whole bunch of other people. But that's a whole nother bunch of issues right there. You're on the ladder, but you're on the bottom rung. What do you reckon is going to be the next step on that ladder, right? Now, it might not necessarily be talking about the consumer's story and journey, because that takes a little bit of storytelling skill in order to be able to do that effectively without sounding like a wank, right? But the next step on that ladder could be, heaven forbid, you explaining to your community how you did it. All right. Now, some people do the whole, and I did this for a decent time as an agent myself quite a few years ago, where you put in the just sold. We got 16,000 views across the internet, which resulted in 180 inquiries, which resulted in 73 buyer inspections, which resulted in 10 offers, which resulted in one amazing result, right? That's a bit of a standard now across the industry. So that is one way of sort of putting a bit of color around it, right? And showing the amount of people that you engaged, the amount of people that you contacted you, the amount of people that you then engaged through the property, the amount of people that you took through to offer. You know what I mean, right? Or you could also explain to a degree some of the mechanics, not just the views and stuff, which is still a little bit ego, right? You could explain some of the mechanics. Problem. Our vendors needed a result within 90 days in order to be able to execute on a build, right? For example. Potential solution. Because we had a degree of time pressure, we decided to go with a more time-based campaign to create greater urgency amongst the buying population. Hence why we went with an auction or a fixed date sale or a sale by set date, whatever the case may be, whatever your brand says. Okay. The reason why we did that is so that on the internet, and you could do this in bullet point, the benefits were got more attention in the list at realestate.com, made people make a decision as to whether they liked it or not quicker. That. At the negotiation table, putting the time pressure on the purchaser allows the opportunity to talk brass tacks, for example, right? I'm just talking in iterations, right? And that would be a damn sight more helpful to your consumers than just saying, we just sold this. I don't get, all right? And it's the same with recruitment, right? Just off on a tangent. It's exactly the same with fucking recruitment. Why on earth, when we all know what every one of our competitors does in order to try and sell a home, we all know what everybody does, right? Why on earth are we so cloak and dagger about it when it comes to actually, attracting the people that need to hear what it is that we do? So if it's recruitment, why on earth wouldn't you say to potential candidates out there, right, we provide you with this tool, that bit of kit, that software, this, and this at a cost of $5,000 a month. We also provide you with blah, 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 blah. Because we think that because we think we're giving away our fucking secret herbs and spices. Bullshit. Everybody does that bit, or most of it, or some of it at the very least, right? And it's the same with our consumers, our community, our clients. There's no magic pill or magic wand, there's no secret sauce as to why one person is better than another person. It's all human mechanics. And last time I checked, we're all human beings, I think, right? That's all it is. So what's the harm in just saying, our theory behind the practicality of what went on during that campaign? Our suggestions were X, Y, and Z. Why? Because we believe that by doing that, this A, B, and C were more likely to happen, as was the case in this situation, thankfully, because we managed to execute resulting in not just an outcome that was timely, but it also allowed us to maximize the value of the buyer population at the time. Now, that in itself would be a massive step up. That would be a rung or two up on that ladder, right? Now, how do you get that little bit further? How about you actually put your clients front and center of all of these communications, if they are cool with this, of course. And even if they're not cool with it, and you can take their names out and whatnot, just get their permission to tell the story of the sale. Now, I can hear some of you saying, but what if it's a divorce? What if it's a death? What if they don't want their story, broadcasting out to the greater community? All right. I'm hearing it, right? I'm hearing it. But there's diplomatic ways of telling that story as well. The situation that we found ourselves in meant that we needed to make sure that we provided as smooth a ride as possible for our vendors in order to allow them the clarity of thinking to take the next step forward in what has been a stressful time. That's emotional stuff. That's like, that would give you some sort of opportunity to actually get the attention of the people that you're trying to connect with. Yeah. Now you go one rung further, and I know some of you do this, but nowhere near enough of you do it, and nowhere near enough of you do it correctly, as far as I'm concerned. Getting vendor testimonials or getting vendor videos or getting video content, generally speaking, of the outcome or what have you, and not you putting a fucking sold sticker on the board. Half of you cocking it up, by the way. I was shit at putting sold stickers on boards. That seemed to be my Achilles heel. I did plenty. Thankfully, touch wood. Thankfully, I did a few of them, but I can never get it fucking right. Like, I don't know, cack-handed. I needed to get left-handed stickers or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, getting videos from them and the difficulty with them is, and this is where an execution piece comes into play, you've got to be careful that you don't make it too staged as well. And that I do understand. That's a little bit trickier to try and navigate, because vendors a lot of the time they just want you to tell them what you want them to say. But if you can capture it in such a way that isn't as staged and framed and all the rest of it, either whether it's in a conversation, whether it's in a just a general conversation, general chit chat at the table, or whatever. You guys have got to do what you got to think about how you can do it in a way that makes you feel comfortable, but getting that genuine vendor seller communication, collaboration, gratitude, whatever it is, whatever the emotions are, will start to get you a lot further up on that ladder. Why? Because it will relate to those that are at the cusp of making a very, very similar decision. When it comes to marketing, no one operates through their head. Everyone operates through their heart if they are going to get any sort of degree of resonation with the brand that is being promoted. Bo, sorry, mate. I'm guilty for some of the things that you have mentioned earlier. Mate, no need to fucking apologize. And I'm gonna single Bo out for some of the amazing work that he does, by the way, in a second. But anyway, sorry, mate. I'm guilty for some of the things that you have mentioned earlier, but I've also been trying to emphasize the story, or always trying to remain humble in the posts that I put out there, of course. Now, you're absolutely spot on, mate. And I am a fan of humility to a point. But and we're sort of segueing into a whole nother topic, which I would love to talk about in greater detail, actually. And that's something that I refer to as the line of confidence, right? We all dance on this line of confidence, and the line starts at humility, humble at one end, and it turns into humility. And at the other end is arrogance. And we all dance on that line between humility and arrogance at all times, depending on who we're connecting with, who we're vibing with, who we are conversing with, or whatever, whoever's in our aura. It's all a dance on this line of confidence, which I discovered through some of my sessions with my psychologist, right? We were talking about this very thing, and that's what I labeled it as we were talking about, we were whiteboarding it. And amazing psychologist she was as well, actually. And we were whiteboarding this whole thing, this whole topic of how we all dance on this line. And unfortunately, the extremes tend to be the ones that either, like the arrogant ones are the loudest, brashest, biggest fucking arseholes, pretty much. And the ones that are at the opposite end are the mouses. They are the mouses. Worst English ever. They are the mice, right? They get hurt. And as Laurie mentioned, she feels, and I agree, that a lot of people genuinely give a shit. But their problem is they tend to sit too far towards the humility end of that line of confidence. Now, you can hit a degree of confidence without going into arrogant territory, as long as everything that you say is legit. That's generally one of the first ways that you can make sure that you're staying confident and not going arrogant, right? When you just make sure that everything that you say is true. Arrogance tends to mean that some people are trying to hide inadequacy. Ego has very much got in the way of them actually showing any degree of vulnerability. But at the opposite end, which is what sometimes good people like Bo can fall into, and it's what I fell into back in the day as well, in a number of different parts of my career, is that if we try and claim it to be humble, right? We're guilty of it, like what Bo said. We're guilty of some of the things, but because we're trying to stay humble, then your ego's getting in the way of progression again, but in a different way. Your ego is preventing you from actually showing that, yes, you are fucking good at what you do, right? And how many times, for those people that are at that humility, that humble end of that line of confidence, right? How many of you lament the fact that you see Joe Arsehole or Jane Dickhead real estate agent who you know is a complete wanker, who shafts their clients, who just cheats their way to listings and blah, 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 blah. How many of yous do that, you know, that are at this humble end? How many of yous do that almost every other day or every third day or every time you miss out on a listing and you piss and you moan because old dickhead cheated their way to that listing again? You have a duty, right? You need to think about it this way. You guys that are humble, right? You guys that and girls that are not demonstrating why you are legit at your job, right? You've got to think about it a different way. If you don't do that, then you are not servicing your community in the sense that you aren't helping them to avoid making mistakes by going on with another agent who you know is a complete knob. If anything, you are doing them a complete disservice by being humble. I know for a fact, right, that B Lion, right, because I've got to know him really well over the last few months, Bo Lion, who works up in Echuca, he's a rock star on the rise, right? He's getting accolades in his network every single quarter, right? And yet he still has this aversion to making sure that his community knows how good he is. Well, this is it, gang. You're causing, essentially, right? You are causing the same amount of damage by being too humble as what you would by buying a stupid car and razzing it up Echuca High Street. You're doing exactly the same amount of damage, but in different ways. You go down the arrogant end, people just think you're a wanker and you think the industry's shit. But if you go down the other end, you're not helping those people that you want to serve from making those mistakes. You're not helping them to avoid those mistakes by going on with people that you know are going to burn them. You're doing exactly the same shit, but just at the opposite end of the scale. So you got to think about it in a different way, gang. When we're working with us, and right, and this is the other thing. I know we talked this to the top of this conversation was about just listers and just souls, right? And I've transferred it into telling of stories. But the other thing that we need to talk about when it comes to especially our social media, but our media in general, is telling any story, right? Now, the reason why I'm going to call bullshit on Bo for that first comment that I've still got up on the screen there is because, as well as the stuff that he does put on his social media, he's been doing one of the best series that I've ever seen an agent do on social media by a country mile. He's doing these home improvement tips with Bo, I think, during the lockdown. I can't remember what exactly it's called. But he's doing these home improvement tips, right, around the house while he's in lockdown. And it's so fucking funny and shows him as a human and shows his humility, right? That if he were to then put on about a resort and explain what he did, the mechanics of it, why he recommended the things that he did and the outcome, attached a vendor video to it, right? There is literally not one reason on this planet as to why he would be at the top end of that ladder. Business, pipeline. Because outside of the transactions that he is showing on his social media, he is showing who he is. Right? He is telling the story of Bo Lion at home, fucking a load of stuff up, or cleaning or collecting his beer bottles, or pissing weed spray on the flowers that is of his front lawn. Home appreciation in isolation. That's what it's called. That's what it's called. Thank you, L Page. See, this is why Lisa is my partner in crime in the Combine Franchise Network that we work together with. Home appreciation in isolation. That's what it's called. And it's mint. It's absolutely wicked. But gang, You've got to, this is the stuff that you've got to do, right? And there are some people where sometimes the stuff that they do makes me feel fucking sick, right? And they're but then they interdisperse it with, they'll do some training and they're sweating their ass off and they're looking horrible and dirty and grubby because they're sweating or they're doing some training, doing some, or they're doing something that's just human, right? And they don't realize it's those bits that actually help them way more than the arrogant crap. It's on Insta. Yeah, check out his Instagram page, Maxine. It's fucking gold. So good. All right. That's the stuff that gets you at the top of that, towards the top of that ladder, right? That ladder of engagement that we're all trying to get to the top of. I hope this is helping one or two of you. This is basically what it's all about. It's telling the story. That's what Immy says in her training, and she does a damn good job of broadcasting that. This is all it is. Stop banging on about the transaction and tell people the story. Tell people the mechanics. Tell people why you made certain decisions. In day 27 of our campaign, we made the decision to convert from a private sale to an auction to increase the level of urgency. The outcome of that was a big uptake in X, Y, and Z, resulting in the result coming through. And you're talking about case studies, right? That's what they are. But why on earth aren't we putting mini case studies on every single fucking one? Why not? All you need to do is set a little template, do a little pro forma template, and then stick in your 3 or 4 bullet points. And the thing is, right? Hey, Lise, if you can, copy it into this. If you can, Lise. Fuck, don't worry. No. By the way, Lise, you're not on time now. By the way, Mr. Saul, good to see you, sir. Great to see you, my man. Good to see you. Hope everything is going well. But team, whether it's because you're at the arrogant end of the scale or whether it's because you're at the too humble end of the scale, stop letting your ego get in the way of connecting with the humans that you want to connect with. All right? It's not rocket science, but it's very easy to fuck up. And that's why the majority of people are fucking it up, essentially. And I'm going to say that word vulnerability again. And vulnerability that is possibly the key to a lot of this. Because if you're too humble, then you're not prepared to show a vulnerability in actually showing people how good you are. And if you're arrogant, you're too vulnerable because your shit don't stink. Right? You're too afraid to be vulnerable because of that. Either way, you're not being exactly who you are. And therefore, you're not allowing yourself the best opportunities to actually connect with the humans, right? Busy as a one-legged man in an ass-kicking competition, like it. So for the Bows of this world, for the Laurie Frenches of this world, who are genuinely good at what they do, and for the betterment of the industry, need to be heard a damn sight more. This is how you do it, gang. This is how you do it. Thanks, Lise. This is how you do it, team. End of. Run every single thing that you do through the filter of what will my customers think of this? How will they interpret this? Why do I need to tell them that? Right? Because if all you do is just bang transaction after transaction with the token line of really pleased to help our vendors, then that's all it's going to do is like go and just slide off them. That's one of the reasons, it's just so, well, look, to me it's obvious, but I guess it's not obvious to lots of other people. But bear in mind, to those that I am calling, I am like, calling to arms, the good people, the professional humans that I want to serve and that I want to see dominate this industry and take the industry to where it needs to be. Then part of being 100% authentically who you are is allowing your community to see the confidence that you have in your ability as a professional. That is not arrogant. There's a soccer coach called Jose Mourinho who has gone fucking nuts now. But one big line that he said at the very start of his first tenure with Chelsea football, the sports thing's irrelevant, but his quote is absolutely relevant, right? Someone said to him when he called himself the special one, a reporter said to him, that's a bit arrogant, isn't it, Jose? He turned around to them and said, it's not arrogance if you can back it up. And he went on to go and win a Premier League title in his first season, right? He backed it up. If you're at the too humble end, you have to demonstrate your IQ. You're way too EQ dominant within your mind. This game is won and lost on the balance between EQ and IQ. You have to have both. Otherwise, you're just going to be everybody's friend, like they do on the In-Betweeners. All right? Call to arms for all of those professional humans. Your humility is causing as much damage to the industry as the arrogance is. Sort it out. Because you've got the talent. The majority of you have the talent, want to see people do well, and yet that's where the majority sits at the bottom end of the money pool, right? Of the business pool, of the attention pool. All right? Call to arms for all the professional humans out there. And please do yourselves a favor and have a clickety-click onto Bowline's Facebook page, which my partner in crime, Lisa Page, has put onto a comment in one of my Facebook pages. If you can't find it, just put a comment saying, where is it? And I will, because you might be on a different channel, and I will repost. Have a fucking look at it. It is just the best. It is just the best. Oh, fuck, I forgot what it's called again. Home appreciation in isolation. Just so fucking cool. Anyway, team, I'm going to love you and leave you. This coffee has well and truly kicked in, and it's a good job because I've got a fuckload of laptop work to do now. So, rockstar lifestyle I lead. Team, stay safe, stay healthy. Most importantly, stay happy. Thank you so much for those of you that took the time to stop by and say hi. And please make sure that you tag some people that you might feel could get benefit from hearing what I just said, because there are a shitload, and I agree with Laurie, the majority that are sitting in the too humble basket that need to hear this in order to either do one of two things: either advance their careers, but if they're not fussed about that, then they need to do it in order to make sure that they are servicing their community as well as they should be. All right? Rock and roll, gang. Speak to you soon.